Good morning. Not that I don't care about his opinion, he has to say good morning. He's next up on the script. The hour of convening has arrived and the Senate will now come to order. At this time, I'd like to ask that all unauthorized persons exit the chamber. Chair would once again like to recognize his good friend from Chickamauga.
Mr. President, thank you. Good morning to you. It is a wonderful, beautiful, glorious day at our state capitol, day 39. It's a busy day. The men and women here in the Senate is ready to go to work for the people of Georgia. At a moment in history, this very day, 1945, basketball star Walt Frazier was born in Atlanta and went on to be elected to the NBA Hall of Fame. Also, the man from Valdosta told me today is National Cake Day. Mr. President, the journal's been read and found to be correct.
Your brevity came as a surprise. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? Hearing none, the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 273 by Senator Jackson of the second and others. A bill be titled enactment Chapter 3, Title 20 of the OCGA relating to post-secondary education.
Higher education.
Senate Bill 274 by Senator Orrock of the 36th and others. A bill be titled enactment Title 31 of the OCGA relating to health, so as to create the Advisory Council
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 275 by Senator Jackson of the second. A bill be titled enactment Chapter 12 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to disabled veterans and blind persons.
Veterans.
Senate Bill 276 by Senator Jackson of the second. A bill be titled enactment Code Section 20-4-21 of the OCGA relating to tuition fees.
Higher education.
Senate Resolution 499 by Senator James of the 35th, a resolution resolving the issues surrounding human trafficking and transport in and around metropolitan Atlanta by implementing a recognizable brand bridging awareness with safety and rescue and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 509 by Senator Parent of the 42nd and others, a resolution urging the United States Congress to pass the Transit Worker and Pedestrian Protection Act.
Transportation.
Mr. President, that concludes the order.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Bill 639 by Reverend Setzler of the 35th and others, a bill be titled enactment and act creating a new charter for the city of Kinston. Senate House Bill 650 by Reverend Dudnick of the 29th and others, a bill be titled enactment and act for a new charter for the city of Kinston. House Bill 665 by Reverend Knight of the 130th and others, a bill be titled an act of right for the creation of one or more community improvement districts in the city of Locust Grove. House Bill 678 by Reverend Howard of the 124th and others, a bill be titled an act of an act establishing compensation. House Bill 681 by Reverend Sains of the 180th and others, a bill be titled an act of an act create the Camden County Public Service Authority. House Bill 682 by Reverend Sains of the 180th and others, a bill be titled an act to create the Camden County Spaceport. House Bill 683 by Reverend Sains of the 180th and others, a bill be titled an act to repeal an act creating and establishing the St. Mary's Airport. House Bill 684 by Reverend Gamble of the 15th and others, a bill be titled an act to provide a homestead exemption from City of Cartersville. House Bill 685 by Reverend Bentley of the 139th and others, a bill be titled an act amending an act providing a new charter. House Bill 686 by Reverend Dickey of the 140th and others, a bill be titled an act amending an act to extend the limits of the city of Fort Valley and for other purposes. House Bill 688 by Reverend Belton, the 112th and others, bill be titled an act amending an act to incorporate to grant a new charter to the city of Covington, approved January 89 by Reverend Douglas of the 78th and others, a bill be titled an act amending an act to create the Henry County Government. House Bill 694 by Reverend Mitchell of the 88th and others, a bill be titled an act to provide for the clerk of the Superior Court. House Bill 695 by Reverend Wilson of the 80th and others, a bill be titled an act amending an act to incorporate the city of Brookhaven. House Bill 696 by Representative Jones of the 25th and others, a bill be titled an act to provide for the creation of one or more community. House Bill 697 by Reverend Pruitt of the 149th, the bill be titled an act amending an act providing a new charter for the city of Alma. House Bill 698 by Reverend Belton, the 112th and others, the bill be titled an act to provide a new charter. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Secretary, will you read the reports of standing committees, please?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Assignments has had our consideration to file a supplemental list of appointments made by the governor that requires Senate confirmation and is instructing me with same back to Senate for recommendation. That the appointments be confirmed as submitted, the Honorable Jeff Duncan. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
So quiet in here. It's unusual. We'd like to recognize our Doctor of the Day. I'd like to call upon the Senator from the 22nd to introduce our Doctor of the Day.
Good morning, Senators. It's my honor to introduce our Doctor of the Day, which is Dr. George C. Pursley, who received his medical degree from Medical College of Georgia, located in Augusta, Georgia. He has been in private practice in internal medicine since 1995. In addition to his private practice, his career in medicine has encompassed a variety of leadership positions to include medical director roles for various local hospice and home health service providers. He is currently serving as a medical director at Pruitt Augusta Nursing Home. He is a member of the American Medical Directors Association, Medical Association of Georgia, and is a delegate to the MAG's House of Delegates. So it is my honor and privilege to introduce Dr. George C. Pursley, our Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Hal. Thank you. I want to thank all of you for your support to our medical community in the state of Georgia and our Medical Association of Georgia. And I just want to thank you all a lot, and glad to be here today to help out if I can.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, we ready? It's now time for our morning roll call. It is now time for our morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the Senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I suggest or ask for unanimous consent to suspend roll call today. They're all busy in the building here somewhere.
Is there objection to suspending the roll call? Chair hears none, and the roll call is suspended. It's now time for our morning devotional. It is now time for our morning devotional. All senators, please take your seats and cease all audible conversations. It is now time for our morning devotional. It is now time for our morning devotional. All senators, please take your seats and cease all audible conversations. Doorkeepers, please secure the doors. I'd like to recognize the senator from the 44th to lead us in our pledge and to introduce us to our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now to the Georgia flag. Pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag, liberty, justice, and moderation. Good morning, colleagues. I am pleased this morning to present our chaplain of the day. Reverend Timothy McDonald is the founder of the African American Ministers Leadership Ministers Council and president of the African American Ministers in Action of People for the American Way, and is the senior pastor of the First Iconium Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, where he has served since 1984. Reverend McDonald has taken First Iconium from 35 members to approximately 1,500 members. He served 3 terms as president of the Concerned Black Clergy of Atlanta, an ecumenical consortium of black and white clergy and laypersons working on behalf of the poor. Reverend McDonald previously served as special assistant for community concerns for Mayor Maynard Jackson. Reverend McDonald also dealt with issues around drugs, economic empowerment, South Africa, Central America, Middle East, homelessness, First Amendment rights, the death penalty, and AIDS. He has devoted his life to service of others. He has been given many awards and achievements. Among them, one of the 100 most influential people in Atlanta. He is listed in Who's Who among Black Americans, Who's Who in religion, and Who's among Christian leaders in America. He is the recipient of the Gandhi King Akita Award given by Morehouse College. This award was also given to President Nelson Mandela, Mrs. Coretta Scott King, Bishop Desmond Tutu, and Prime Minister Reagan posthumously. Reverend McDonald is also the recipient of the Liberty Bell Community Service Award given by the Atlanta Bar Association and the J.O. Peterson Education Award given by the Progressive National Baptist Convention. He has been recognized by the Georgia ACLU for exceptional commitment to justice, truth, First Amendment freedoms. Reverend McDonald also served with Dr. Joseph Lyra on the national staff of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference from 1984 to 1990 as the National Director of Operation Breadbasket and Special Projects, the position that Reverend Jesse Jackson held at SCLC. Reverend McDonald also traveled with Ambassador Andrew Young, Martin Luther King Jr. III, Reverend James Orange, and Bernard Lafayette to South Africa in 1993 and 1994 to assist with the election of Nelson Mandela as president of South Africa. Reverend McDonald has been arrested some 15 times for acts of civil disobedience on behalf of the poor, including several times here at the state capitol. Reverend McDonald is the recipient, too, of the Dream for Forward Faith-Based Leadership Award from the Reverend Bernice King on behalf of the King Center. The Distinguished Alumni Lifetime Achievement Award from Candler School of Theology, Emory University, for always speaking truth to power in the community. Reverend McDonald has appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Good Morning America, The Bill O'Reilly Show, Nightline, the National Press Club, and is often quoted in USA Today, New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, National Public Radio, and other national publications. Reverend McDonald received a BA degree from Berry College in Rome, Georgia, and holds a Master of Divinity degree from Emory University and has done some work toward a doctorate degree. He is married to the lovely Mrs. Shirley Neal McDonald, who is with us today, and they're the proud parents of 3 children, Nikki, Timothy IV, and Ebony McDonald. And Nikki is with us also today. Reverend McDonald is not here because of his stand on civil rights and social justice, and because he's a great civil rights icon. He's here today as our chaplain of the day. As pastor of the First Iconium Baptist Church, he has come to tell us what thus saith the Lord. He has also come to encourage us and motivate us to do the right thing here in the Georgia State Senate. He's also here today to pray for us, to pray for all leaders of this state, the executive branch, the legislative branch, judicial branch, to tell us that we need to have open minds and pure hearts, and to tell us that we can do all things through Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Senate, I present to you today the Reverend Timothy McDonald. Reverend McDonald.
Good morning. I certainly want to thank the President, the Chambers, my good friend, Senator Davenport, to all of the senators who are here, the elected officials in this state, to my family and my friends. It's an honor to be here. I received the letter. The letter gave me the guidelines, and it said as close to 5 minutes as possible. I'm a Baptist preacher. I will seek to adhere. I've learned if you say amen a couple of times, even in the chamber, I might be quick. If you don't say amen, I might go on a little bit longer. But Mr. President, I thank you so much for this opportunity. I love my state. The President asked me, where are you from? I'm from Brunswick, Georgia, on the coast, the Golden Isles of Glen. Some of you may remember my pastor who licensed and ordained me, the Reverend State Representative E.C. Tillman, who was a stalwart legislator, did wonderful, awesome things. I was licensed and ordained by the Reverend State Representative E.C. Tillman. I want to share with you some scripture and then some words. In the book of Micah, 6th chapter of Micah, beginning with verse 6. Wherewith shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before the high God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of bills that are passed, or with 10,000 of rivers of oil? Or shall I give my firstborn of my transgression, the fruit of my body, for the sins of my soul? Verse 8, say, nay, he had showed thee, O man, what is good, and what is it that the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. At the end of the day, we have to answer to God. Our conscience has to be clear. Our hearts have to be pure. We have to give an account of our deeds. I love this particular text because Micah understands that it was a time when there was much corruption, particularly in the southern kingdom of Judah. And people were, priorities had gotten out of whack. And people were doing things that they did not normally do, things that were hurting other people, things that were causing other people much distress. And yet they were coming and bringing all of their offerings and their calves and their bullocks, and they were trying to impress God. They were saying to God how smart I am, and look at me, how you bless me. And so the question became, is God really pleased with what we're doing? Our hearts and our motives may perhaps have been in the right place, but is God, at the end of the day, really pleased with what we are doing? And so Micah asked the question, well, what is it that God wants us to do? And he made it very clear. Number one, do justly. Do what's right. Do what's fair. Not just what is politically expedient, not just because you're in a majority and you can, whether Democrat or Republican, but do what's fair by the people. Do what's right by the people. Make sure that you're not just dealing with a particular aspect, a particular sector of the state. Georgia is a very diverse state, and we have to make sure that our governance is for all Georgians and not just for those whom we say we are elected to serve, particularly those who hold statewide offices, to do justly. means that I understand that sometimes I must go against the grain, that sometimes I must put principle before politics, that sometimes I must put people before profits. To do justly means that sometimes I have to walk a very lonesome road. Many of the prophets of old and the prophetess of old had to walk roads that were very lonely at times. We've spent so much time trying to be accepted by everybody. Everybody want to be loved. I've always said, if everybody love you, you ain't doing nothing. If everybody love you, you're not doing right. Because the Christ that I serve, and we're in Lent even now, was crucified because he took stand for what was just and what was right and what was honorable and what was righteous. To be righteous and to be just oftentimes is not a popular position to be in. It may be a politically expedient position. You may be able to get votes. You may be able to get bills passed. You may be able to get legislation through. But that doesn't mean it was right. As an African American, I have to remind myself often, over and over again, that there was a time in our history when slavery was legal. There was a time in our history as a nation when Jim Crow was legal and segregation was legal. That didn't make it right, but it was legal. We got to make sure that what we do here in the state of Georgia is not only legal, but right. And it's just. Because at the end of the day, we have to give an account to God. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're able to sleep at night, that our conscience is clear. And I believe that Micah had it right. The first thing that we got to do, just do what's fair. Do justice. Don't just talk about justice. Don't just placate justice, but do justice, live justice, make justice a part of your everyday existence. In fact, I would challenge you to vote justly. And to vote justly sometimes means to be able to vote and then go to church or go to the synagogue or go to the temple or the mosque, wherever you go, and feel good about yourself. The second thing that Micah says is to love mercy. Not just to think about mercy, but to love mercy. Those who are most vulnerable, our children, the elderly, the disabled, we have to make sure that we legislate and we pass legislation that uplifts them, that helps them, that assists them. To love mercy sometimes means that I have to make a sacrifice, that I have to give up something to make sure that the majority or the whole are fed. Micah had it right, senators, to love mercy, to do justice. Mercy is one of the most powerful attributes of our faith because it causes us to get outside of ourselves. It causes us to stretch ourselves. It pulls our compassion in a totally different direction. And as we look at our state, and let's admit, our nation is a very divided nation. It's a very divided state. And there are oftentimes that we find ourselves in places and positions that are very uncomfortable. I pray for my country every day. I pray for our state every day. It is who I am because I believe that we can be better. I believe that we can do better. I believe that we can be more inclusive, that we can be broader, that we can be more diverse, and that we could make sure that all Georgians are and have a seat at the table. Power is an awesome thing, and oftentimes we abuse power. Even in the church, I've seen the abuse of power. Power is good when it is used for the benefit of others and not for the benefit of self. When I look at Micah and I look at what God requires, God's actions bring us together rather than divide us. Simple. God's action picks us up rather than knocks us down. Those things of God, those things that we legislate, they should liberate us rather than enslave us. They should unite us rather than divide us. They should encourage us rather than discourage us. They should empower us rather than subdue us. God's power promotes love and not hate. Anytime that we pass something that produces hate, it's not of God. Anytime that we pass something that divides, it's not of God. Anytime that we legislate and it puts others down, it's not of God. And we have to be clear that these are God's requirements. And then the third thing that Micah says, not only must you do justice and love mercy, you got to walk humbly with your God. To walk with God is an awesome thing. because I've learned man will change on you. He'll be one way today and change and do another way tomorrow. He'll say certain things when he's with you and say certain things when he's not with you. To walk humbly with God means that I'm going to be the same no matter where you find me. I'm going to speak the same. I'm going to vote the same. My conscience will be clear that I'm walking with my God, because at the end of the day, it's not, the powers that be whom I have to please. The end of the day, it is God who I have to please. And I got to walk humbly with my God. Humility is a trait and a characteristic that is found not as often as it needs to be. We're living in a time when pride seems to be the order of the day. And yet the scriptures tell us that it is humility that gets us to where we want to be. We know what is happening in our state. We know the bills that come before us. We know what is right most often. And I would commend us, ladies and gentlemen, elected officials, senators, Mr. President, Lieutenant Governor, that we do that which is pleasing in God's sight. Because at the end of the day, we don't have to answer just to the governor or to the president or the Senate or the Congress. We got to answer to God. We got to give an account of our stewardship. Dr. Joseph Lowry often said it when I worked with SLC, and I worked even since I left. We must learn to turn to each other and not own each other. And too much of what happens under the Gold Dome is against each other. And we have got to find ways to work around our differences, to work around those barriers, to work around those things that superficially separate us, and to find those things that unite us as Georgians, that unite us as citizens of this great state. Georgia is a great state. I could have gone and moved many other places. I ain't going nowhere. I like Georgia. I like the Golden Isles. I like Jekyll Island. I like where I was raised. I like how I was raised. And I am proud to be a Georgian. But I know at the end of the day, we can do better. I know at the end of the day, we can be better. And I know at the end of the day, we will make it better, because we are God's people who are called by God's purpose to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. Shall we pray? Oh God, you call us to a higher standard, a standard that includes people before politics, a standard that reminds us of the least, the lost, the left behind. May we have conscience, may we have compassion, may we have love that enables us, even as we legislate, to remember them and to be mindful of them. We thank you for these elected officials, for the sacrifices that they make, for our president, for all the senators. We thank you, God, for the time and effort that they put into trying to make our state a better place. Now we ask, oh God, in these last 2 days of this session, that you would touch hearts, prick hearts, minds, and spirits, and that we might do those things that will make us proud, but even more importantly, oh God, will make you proud, to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. Christ has given us that example, and as we march towards Easter Sunday morning, we know what he stood for. We know what he represented. We know what he gave his life for. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor, to relieve the brokenhearted, to set the captives free. Let us, as we legislate, follow that example. In your precious and holy name we pray. Amen.
you see my text?
I just did. It was in my, I can't look.
Give him the.
Does any senator? Are there any unanimous consents? We have a very special guest with us today that we would like to recognize. Will the Secretary read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 268 by Senator Beach of the 21st and others. A resolution recognizing commending David Andrews for other purposes. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend David Andrews on his extraordinary accomplishment as a student athlete with the University of Georgia football team, two-time Super Bowl winner, and for his public service to the citizens of Georgia. That concludes the order.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon our friend, the senator from the 21st, to introduce our special guest today.
Well, thank you, Mr. President and Senate colleagues. I bring before you David Andrews, the starting center for the New England Patriots. But more importantly, if you remember, I honored him 5 years ago as a 4-year starter and captain of the University of Georgia Bulldogs. And I remember I had his parents, Jeff and Patricia, down here, and he's up here with his wife, Mackenzie. So, Mackenzie, thank you for being here. She's from Cedartown. But I remember when I introduced him, I said he's going to have a bright NFL future. And I had no idea he'd be in 3 Super Bowls in his first 4 years. But I will tell you that he told me the story where he had one workout by one person. Bill Belichick flew in the middle of the night, flew in and worked him out in sweatshirt and sweatpants and said, I'm gonna call you right after the draft, and we're going to sign you. And within 3 minutes, he got a phone call from Bill Belichick, and he signed with the Patriots. Now, I don't know if y'all know the odds of making it as a free agent are not great. But not only did he make it as a free agent, he was a starter as a rookie and never gave the job up. Tom Brady wanted him as his starter. He has played in 3 Super Bowls. The one was a heartbreak loss to the Falcons when we were up 28-3, and he was the starting center in that game, and he's wearing the ring from that game. But I'm really proud of David. But what I'm really proud of, even though he's a New England Patriot, he's made Georgia his home. He and his wife have bought a house in Roswell, and they live here, and they are Georgians, and they're going to make Georgia their home, and he is a Bulldog at heart. But I just wanted to recognize him because I recognized him 5 years ago as a captain of the Georgia Bulldogs, and now he is a captain. He's a 2-year captain of the New England Patriots. As a free agent to be the captain is quite amazing. So I'm really proud of David. His parents and I are very good friends, and I would like to welcome the starting center for the New England Patriots, David Andrews. David?
Well, I just want to thank Senator Beach for having me down. Lieutenant Governor, thank you, and thank you to all y'all. It's a pleasure to come down here. I catch a lot of crap in New England for wearing my Braves hat every day, and I'm very proud of Georgia and making bets in the locker room on our Bulldogs, and it's just Georgia's home to me, and it'll always be home. And I was really proud to get to win a Super Bowl in my hometown, and I thought the city of Atlanta did an amazing job. It was by far probably the best Super Bowl experience I've been to, and every guy on the team had an awesome time, and that made me really proud. They jabbed at me a little bit for us canceling school and everything on Tuesday for weather, and so that doesn't happen much in New England. But it was a huge honor, and I appreciate it, and thank y'all for having me down today. Go Dogs!
We have some additional special guests that we have with us today. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 486 by Senator Miller, the 49th, and others, a resolution commending and congratulating Henry Ehrlich on the grand occasion of his 100th birthday and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon our pro tem to introduce our special guest here today.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me a great deal of pleasure and true honor to talk about a gentleman that was absolutely remarkable, Henry Ehrlich. Mr. Ehrlich referred to himself as the luckiest man and the unluckiest man on earth. Henry's father died at 9 years old. He lived in Poland. He was interned in a concentration camp, Auschwitz. He survived the Holocaust. He escaped. He was released from Auschwitz and traveled across Europe to the English Channel, crossing the English Channel into England and ultimately to America. On his pathway, he and other former internment individuals came across two German soldiers, and they robbed them, stole their money, their uniforms, and their peanut butter. They threw away the uniforms and the money because they thought the money was no good and kept the peanut butter. That's why he refers to himself as the luckiest and the unluckiest guy in the world. At Henry's 100th birthday, he gave a short speech, and Henry is a little short guy with a very full, robust head of hair. By the way, he says the reason Americans go bald is because we don't wear hats. I don't think it worked for me. He gave a little speech, and he said, "To heck with the Nazis. To heck with the Americans that cheated me when I got here. I outlived them all." He's a remarkable individual. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce his son and my sister, Mark Ehrlich. Mark?
Thank you very much, Butch. I'm very honored that you have honored my father on the occasion of his 100th birthday. He will be absolutely thrilled to hear about this. And I'm very thrilled to be a part of the Miller family. They're an incredibly great group of people. Thank you all.
Thank you. Very well. President, can we get a photograph?
Yeah. We have some additional special guests that they would like to recognize, and I would like to call on the senator from the 35th to do so.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm so excited today. It's Constituents Day, and we have hundreds of constituents, but I'll greet you in a minute down there. But right now, I'd like to introduce our very special guest, Ms. Zanona Clayton. She's the founder, president, and CEO of the Trumpet Awards Foundation, Inc., creator and executive producer of the foundation's Trumpet Awards. The Trumpet Award is a prestigious event highlighting African American awards and accomplishments and contributions. Also, she's been with WAGA TV, CBS TV, CNN. She's been began her television career in 1967, and civil rights. She marched with Martin Luther King, and she's 89 years young and still fighting and working. Our Senate is proud to give you this resolution number 498 for your many accomplishments. We honor you, and we just say a few words. We have 53 bills today. You know how that goes. Thank you.
I can make it brief. In my brevity, I want to say how delighted I am with this recognition. I read and listen and watch all that you do here, and I know that you all are doing sacrificial service for our state. And I want to commend you for all you do, because as the minister said, doing the right thing, I'm sure is in your hearts. And I love it, respect it, and appreciate it, and thank you for this moment so much. Thank you.
Any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I want to tell you an incredible story and recognize a very special guest that we have with us today in the Senate. Ira Katz, he's the owner of the pharmacy in Little Five Points. And last May, he's working in his pharmacy. He's a towering figure in the community already. When a woman came into the store and asked if anyone knew a young man who was in a car right outside the pharmacy. She had noticed that he looked to be unconscious. Ira went outside, realized that the young man was in the throes of overdosing right at that minute, and he was unconscious. He ordered his pharmacy assistant to get the Narcan from the store, instructed nearby customers to call 911, and began conducting CPR on the young man until the first responders arrived 10 minutes later. With the Narcan and the CPR, Ira kept the boy from death until the emergency services personnel arrived. Over the next couple of minutes, the firefighters started to see slight movement from the teenager, and eventually he opened his eyes and could speak. If not for Ira's knowledge, preparation, and commitment to helping those in the community, this young man would not be alive today. He, as I mentioned, is already a luminary in the community. He went to Emory. He's an adjunct professor of pharmacy for Mercer University, founding member of the statewide Academy of Independent Pharmacists, and has been board chair. But I wanted to take a minute to just recognize this as the pivotal moment that it was, his fast action, and thank him for everything he does for the community. So colleagues, please join me in thanking Ira Katz, his quick thinking for saving a life, and all he does for our community. He's right here. And I also want to mention Sherry Mann Stewart, a constituent of mine, who was the first to alert me to Mr. Katz's heroic actions. I know we need more like him. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Senator. We have a large number of folks requesting a point of personal privilege, and I just want to remind the body that we have over 50 bills today to vote on. So my ask is that we continue to move through this as expeditiously as possible. Chair recognizes our good friend from the 32nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some of my colleagues may not know that I had the honor of representing the state of Kentucky in the National Spelling Bee in 1967. And I would like to recognize someone special in our gallery who is the Spelling Bee champion for the state of Georgia for this year. Her name is Arushi Kumar. Arushi, stand up, please. And she's going to be representing Georgia in the National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. Help me welcome her to the Senate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate, colleagues. I have in the gallery, we're celebrating a very special day today. We're celebrating the anniversary of the 1919 liberation for Polish Americans. We're recognizing the 100th anniversary of Poland regaining its independence and for other purposes, whereas 3 empires collapsed as a result of World War I and Poland regained her independence after 123 years. This was accomplished mostly through its own military efforts. However, Americans' help was crucial. And whereas President Wilson recognized Poland's right to be a sovereign state with access to the sea in one of his 14 points. So we're delighted to have today here in the gallery Polish Americans from Gwinnett County. Welcome to the state capitol. This is your state capitol. I look forward to visiting with you today. Thank you very much, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased today to recognize my good friend Griff Doyle, who's been with government relations with the University of Georgia for many years now. He is retiring here in April, and this is a gentleman with a distinguished career. He served as the president of the Georgia Public Policy Foundation. He was the assistant commissioner of the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. Then he spent 8 years, I guess it was, as director of federal relations for the University of Georgia, and the last 7 years as vice president for government relations at UGA. All of you know Griff and have seen him here working the halls with us and sharing information, helping advocate for the university system and the University of Georgia. He helped begin the Washington semester program for our students to go study up in D.C., the initiation of the Delta Hall up there, the great housing facility for them, innovation districts, and many other things in his tenure. So if you would please recognize Griff, clap for him. He's up in the gallery today. Good to have you, Griff. Congratulations.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, as you know, in last year's budget, we funded several mobile welding labs for the Technical College System of Georgia. And one of those mobile welding labs, sorry, it's hard phrase to get out this morning, will be on display for us to see on Tuesday. It'll be out front on Mitchell Street from 6:30 a.m. till 1 p.m. So you can see one of the things we've invested in for jobs for Georgia. I encourage you all to make it outside and check that out if you can Tuesday morning. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I just wanted to bring to your attention the sustainability report by the Georgia Forestry Commission that is on your desk. I would encourage you to take the time to look through that and the good work that our men and women are doing in our Georgia Forestry Commission and that they do in protecting our state's natural resources on a day-to-day basis in forestry and the fact that our state is the #1 forestry state in the nation and something that we should be proud of. So with that, Mr. President, I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 15th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to use this occasion to introduce a special guest on the side over here, Kimberly B. Brown. She is the daughter of activist, actor, and former football Hall of Famer Jim Brown. He was a running back for the Cleveland Browns of the NFL from 1957 through 1965. She is the first child to be raised by a father from birth to adulthood. Kimberly currently serves as defensive end on the World Football League's the world-famous Legends Football League team, the Atlanta Steam, where the league offers a chance for women who love the sport to play at a high level beyond pickup games that happen across the country and abroad. The Legends Football League is a women's 7-on-7 tackle American Football League with games played in the spring and summer at NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLS arenas. Again, following in her father's footsteps, she is an activist, actress, model, DJ, and race car driver. She is relentless in the pursuit of her dreams to become an individual of multiple talents. This is Kimberly Brown. Let's give her a big round of applause, everybody. Thank you. The daughter of number 32, Jim Brown. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the majority leader for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be real quick, but get most of you at the same time. Mr. Ashfield, Charles Ashfield, who had the incident here in the chamber yesterday, he's got a card right behind the door in the anteroom. If y'all would be so kind as to sign that get well card for him, just to let him know that we're thinking about him. Thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is Constituent Day at the State Capitol, and we have constituents who are in the gallery. Please stand, all of our constituents for Constituent Day. And senators, please give them a warm welcome, Senate welcome, and some are along the wall. This is our seat, yes, but it belongs to all the people who we serve. And on Constituent Day this time, we're giving Police Officer of the Year to Captain Cotton Tukes, Hattie Cotton Tukes, to Businesswoman of the Year, Harriet Bryant, Businessman of the Year, Nigel Umari he's up there. Let's see, Servant Leader of the Year, Tiffany Stewart Stanley, and Servant Leader Man of the Year, J.C. Sebastian standing over here, Veteran of the Year, Derek Murphy, and Dr. Ramona Jackson Jones, who is also our chairperson of the Douglas County Commission. Oh, Lord, thank you. Volunteer of the Year, Marcia Ridley, Renaissance Woman of the Senate, District 35 is Councilwoman Carmelita Gums, who's here. Renaissance Man of the Senate, District 35 is Mayor William Bill Edwards, who's here, volunteer leader of the Senate District 35, Captain Howard Billingsley, right there. He's always there for us. Trailblazer of the Senate District 35, Lydia Glaze, our former councilwoman of Fairburn, Georgia. Pioneer leader of the Senate, Rochelle Robinson, who is the mayor of Douglas County. Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, Brian James. Oh, he is my son too. That tall one right there. And I think, so many of them. Of course, you know our staff support Andrew Ellison. He works for everybody, and Julius Talbert, as well as Diego Santana and Jenny Guadalupe. And then we honored also the South Fulton Chamber of Commerce with the president, Diane Matthews. But we have our chief of police of the city of South Fulton with us, our chief of police of Union City, which is Chief Jones, and she was the Fulton County Chief of Police for so many years. So they are here with our honoree, Captain Hattie Cotton-Tooth. I thank you all constituents for being here today. And I'm not the only one that's honoring you. Of course, you know our state representatives are as well, and they've all came and addressed you. Thank you very much, and everybody's invited to eat in room 124.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to recognize Arab American Heritage Month, and I ask for our friends in the gallery to please stand so that we can honor you. Whereas National Arab American Heritage Month is observed throughout the United States each April, and whereas for more than a century, Arab Americans have been making valuable contributions to virtually every aspect of American society, including medicine, law, business, technology, government, and culture. And whereas, since migrating to America, men and women of Arab descent have shared their rich culture and traditions with neighbors and friends. And whereas, they brought with them to America their resilient family values, strong work ethic, dedication to education, and diversity in faith and creed that has added strength to our nation. Whereas the Arab American community joins all Americans in its desire to see a peaceful and diverse society where every individual is treated equally and feels safe. And whereas Georgia takes cultures and traditions represented by its residents, and whereas Georgia is enriched by the significant and lasting contributions of its residents of Arab American heritage, now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body do hereby commend the innumerable contributions of Arab Americans and recognize April 2019 as Arab American Heritage Month at the state capitol. This resolution was brought forth by myself and Senator Sheikh Rahman, and as you all are aware, we represent two of the most diverse districts in the country, to include many Arab Americans who have given greatly to our state, and want to recognize and appreciate you this morning. Thank you so much, and I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. If I could have everyone's attention. Pursuant to Senate Rule 10-1.3, the Senate will now reconsider Senate Resolution 465. Will the Secretary read the caption?
Senate Resolution 465 by Senator Miller of the 49th and others. A resolution adopting the rules of the Senate and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Before I recognize the Majority Leader, I'd like to take a moment here to personally thank the Majority Leader and the Minority Leader for their participation in this process. This has been a priority of mine since virtually the first moment I walked into these chambers. It was not just enough to get this done, it was to get this right. And I'm proud of the process that we've gone through to get this right, and glad that 56 senators have participated in this throughout this entire process. I'd like to recognize the Majority Leader to speak to Senate Resolution 465.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I echo your comments that it has been a pleasure to work with the Minority Leader and both parties since literally day one of this session. We've been collectively working together to improve our Senate rules. There were items that both of us felt were important that could be improved on during the process. Now we bring these improvements back to our body for approval. I'm proud of the work that we've done. That's both sides of the issue here, both sides of the aisle. Understand this work was done while we were still addressing the needs of 10.5 million other Georgians. So some of these people may wonder why it took a little while. We had some other pressing needs that all of us were involved in during the process, and like the President said, it was more important to get it right than to get it fast. I appreciate the work that both the members of my party as well as those of the Minority Party were a part of in making this happen. It shows that what we can accomplish when we all come together. We've got a lot more work to do over the next couple of days, so I'll close with I appreciate everything that's been done, and I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. The chair would like to recognize a senator from the 55th to speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I would like to, at this time, thank the Lieutenant Governor, the Majority Leader, the Minority Leader, and the Senate Pro Tempore. If you recall, at the beginning of the session, when we were all making speeches about this issue, I made a request of the Lieutenant Governor and asked him to revisit this issue and to fix it. Those were my exact words. And today, I rise to say thank you. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for paying attention to the women of this Senate and revisiting this issue and fixing it and making it better. It's not everything that we want, but it's better. The rules in the Senate reference to sexual harassment and those unwanted behaviors, and not just women, but men too. There are unwanted behavior on both sides, but mostly women. I think it is a bright moment in the Senate how we came together, we worked together to fix it. From the 2 years to 4 years, where a person can report an unwanted sexual behavior or any other behavior that you think is against your nature. It's one of those moments that we can say we work together to make a difference and a change. And I say thank you. And the women of this chamber also thank you. So thank you, Mr. Governor. I appreciate the Assembly listening to me today, and I hope you agree. And I hope that we can continue to work together, not on just this issue, but any other issue that someone is not pleased with. So thank you. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Chair would like to recognize a senator from the 41st, the Minority Leader, to speak to the measure.
Thank you. Our caucus chair said all that needed to be said, but
to be said on this, but I wanted to personally thank the President of the Senate for not letting this matter drop, to make sure that it was continued and on track to make some resolution. The Majority Leader, the Senator from the 6th for their work. Thank you very much.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? For what purpose? The senator from the 45th rise.
Primary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
I would like to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 3rd District for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 3rd is excused. The question is on the adoption of Senate Resolution 465. All those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. My attention. Was it like this? On the adoption of Senate Resolution 465, the yeas are 55, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. I need Dugan now. He needs to do the motion to engross. I gotta get used to it. Don't pull a hamstring. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent that the following bills be engrossed: HB 101, HB 276, HB 224, HB 352, HB 540, HB 220, HB 182, HB 33, HB 365.
The Majority Leader has moved that House Bill 101, 276, 224, 352, 540, 220, 182, and 365 be engrossed. Is there objection? There's objection. Would the Majority Leader like to speak to his motion? He waives. Would the objection like to speak? The Majority Leader has moved that a number of bills be engrossed in order to... Objection. Would you like to speak to your objection? He waives. The Majority Leader has moved that a number of bills be engrossed in order to be able to display on the board all of the bills to be voted on. We will vote on engrossment in... We figured it out. Technology is a great thing. All those in favor of the motion to engross, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion to engross, the yeas are 36, the nays are 18. The motion has prevailed, and the list of House bills are engrossed. We are now moving on to the rules calendar. We are now moving on to the rules calendar. Will the Secretary read the caption of House Bill 101?
House Bill 101 by Representative Ridley the Sixth and others. A bill be titled Act to amend Title 40 in Code Section 48-5-504.40 of the OCGA relating to motor vehicles and watercraft and all-terrain vehicles held in inventory for resale exempt from ad valorem taxation for limited periods of time, respectively, so as revised definitions relative to all-terrain vehicles and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes a senator from the 7th to speak to House Bill 101.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this simply replaces the definition of all-terrain
Senator,
vehicles
please stand at ease.
throughout the code.
The Senate will come back to order. We are on the rules calendar. We have an aggressive schedule today. Please give the senator in the well your attention. Thank
I
you.
yield the well, Mr. President.
The senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none in the previous question's order. Is there objection or agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the pro tem rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that we all appreciate the senator from the 7th's excellent time management?
Brevity is rewarded.
Brevity is of great value.
On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, please read the caption of House Bill 187.
House Bill 187 by Representative Dempsey the 13th and others. A bill be titled enacted in Chapter 2 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to the Department of Community Health so as to provide for a pilot program to provide coverage for the treatment and management of obesity and related conditions and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes a senator from the 11th to speak to House Bill 187.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 187 is a pilot program to allow the state health benefit plan to use medication to help obese people to lose weight. If there are no questions, I'll yield the well and appreciate support. 187.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 193?
House Bill 193 by Representatives Dunn and Who of the 30th and others. The bill will be titled Enactment Article 1 of Chapter 1 of Title 7 of the OCGA, relating to provisions applicable to the Department of Banking and Finance and financial institutions generally, so as to allow banks and credit unions to offer savings promotion raffle accounts in which deposits to a savings account enter a depositor in a raffle and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to speak to House Bill 193.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this bill is the same bill, or similar bill anyways, to what we passed 2 years ago in Georgia. This bill simply allows banks and financial institutions, banks and credit unions, to create incentives within their savings accounts to offer raffles for those who make deposits into savings accounts. The reason we're doing this is there are so many people in Georgia who live paycheck to paycheck, and developing the habit of saving will help them break out of that situation. So this is not gambling. There's no way to lose money. We're simply incentivizing them to make deposits, and if they do so, they can be entered into a raffle to win a small prize. I yield for questions.
You have no questions. Oh. You have one question that just popped up at the last second. I apologize. Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman yield?
I will.
You were not fortunate enough to know my father.
I wished I had.
And what I hear from a lot of the individuals that he was the executive director for the State Teachers Association, that all of the meetings that he went to, he said to them, you need to put aside money for your future when you retire. And they have come to me and said on many occasions that they are so grateful that he told them to do that. And that's basically what we're saying in this bill. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
I'm glad that your father provided a great example for so many people around the state. I yield the well, Mr. President.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none in the previous questions ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption to House Bill 444?
House Bill 444 by Representative Reeves of the 34th and others. A bill be titled Enactment Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to revise the Move On When Ready Act and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Higher Education offers the following subject to House Bill 444. A bill be titled Enactment Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to revise the Move On When Ready Act and for other purposes. Mr. President, a minority report was filed.
For what purpose? The senator from the 17th rise.
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that House Bill 444 be placed on the table.
Senator from the 17th has moved that House Bill 444 be placed on the table. Is there objection? Hearing no objection, House Bill 444 is placed on the table. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption to House Bill 324?
House Bill 324 by Representatives Gravely of the 67th and others. The bill will be titled, an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to offenses against public health and morals so as to provide for the production, manufacturing, and dispensing of low THC oil in this state and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities offers the following subject to House Bill 324. Bill will be titled, an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to offenses against public health and morals so as to provide for the production, manufacturing, and dispensing of low THC oil in this state and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair would like to recognize a senator from the 28th to speak to House Bill 324.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of this distinguished body. I bring to you HB 324, Georgia's HOPE Act. 324 allows for the cultivation of medical marijuana for the production of 5% or less THC oil that may be used by registered patients with one of 17 listed diagnoses. This has been a long vetted process through 6 to 7 years of trials and tribulations, multiple laws, even more bills that did not become law, gone through various committees, along with several all-session study committees, one of which Representative Micah Gravely and I co-chaired to look at in-state access for these patients. Through this process, we heard from patients, parents of patients, law enforcement officers, doctors, lawyers, business people, religious organizations, professors, everyday citizens, and of course, legislators. It was an open process where everyone's voice was heard and their right to an opinion was given its due respect. Many folks have been involved from the beginning. Others, like myself, have joined the debate about midway through this process, and even others as late as this year. But all came with good ideas and legit concerns, but with a focus on the patient and figuring out exactly how can we get them the medicine they so need. Some may argue that this is not a medicine, but we heard testimony of children having 80 to 100 seizures a day, and then after taking the oil, down to 1 per week. That leaves no doubt in my mind that this is clearly a medicine. And in 2015, we gave these patients a right to possess this medicine, but we failed to give them the ability to legally purchase it. Parents and patients are having to drive thousands of miles to buy months of supply at once and then break federal law to get the medicine back to the loved ones they are trying to help. Not knowing if they will be locked up along the way, others are purchasing online, many times not knowing what's in the bottle they are about to give their children. And the worst we heard was parents buying weed on the streets, boiling it in their kitchens to make the medicine, all because they had no legal way to purchase this oil. So HB 324, Georgia's HOPE Act, fixes the issue of no access. And it fixes it with multiple solutions through a medical THC program with 3 legs. First leg is a newly formed commission. The second leg is the university system, and the third leg is the private sector. This program could provide short-term relief combined with a long-term solution where supply meets demand, but that supply does not exceed and drive demand. So the first leg, this starts on line 199. This is the commission. This commission is formed and branched off of DPH, who will provide administrative support only. And it will also serve as the governing body of the medical THC program. The commission will have the ability, if approved by the feds, to purchase THC oil and similar products from any legal source. In short, we're giving them the ability to purchase from other states. If this works, it will be the short-term solution I mentioned earlier. The commission will also be responsible for establishing the rules and regs around the production of low THC oil in this state. You'll find that on lines 240 through 268, as well as lines 398 through 421. The second leg, this will be the university system. This is beginning on line 269. These designated universities, which are defined as our two land-grant universities, which are University of Georgia and Fort Valley State University, they'll be authorized to contract with private entities for the production of low-THC oil through a non-transferable specialty production license. You'll find the details of the requirements on lines 280 through 352. These designated universities will also be given the authority to conduct research on this medicine and submit reports and findings to both the House and Senate Health and Human Services Committees. We're also going to give them the ability to contract with the National Institute on Drug Abuse for receipt of cannabis. This is basically a mirror program of what we have at Ole Miss. You'll find that language on lines 355 through 358. We're also going to give the designated universities the ability to obtain products from other states, just like we did with the commission. Again, providing another state-to-state option. If the designated universities should decide that they don't want to exercise their first right of refusal that we are granting them, then those two licenses will automatically transfer over to the third and final leg of our program, which is the private sector. Private sector will be divided into two classes with one license granted to each class. So the application process will be administered by the commission. So class one, I'm gonna go through class one and class two licenses and kind of tell you the differences. Class one, we are capping them at a cultivation space of 450,000 square feet. The applicant must have $5 million in cash reserves and $2.5 million cash bond. They're going to have to do a written production, security, and employment plan and a written plan of no use of pesticides. There will be an application fee of $25,000, which is non-refundable. And if awarded, the initial license fee is $250,000 with a renewal fee of $100,000 payable annual. They're going to have to contract with a licensed Georgia pharmacist for professional consultation, and they're going to have to be operational within 12 months of receiving their license. The license cannot be resold, but it can be transferred upon approval of the commission. And important thing here is they're also going to have a letter of support from any local municipality in which they're going to be located. They're also going to have a detailed tracking system from seed all the way to the sale. You'll find that on lines 678 through 731. Now, Class 2. Class 2 is for your smaller operators. We're capping them at 40,000 square feet of cultivation space. They have to have $500,000 in available cash reserves with a $100,000 cash bond. And then there will be an application fee, which is non-refundable, at $5,000. If awarded the license, there will be the $25,000 initial license fee and a $12,500 annual renewal fee. And then all the other requirements we put on Class 1 will be there for Class 2 as well. In addition, with the licenses, so Class 1 will also, each license granted, well, there's only one license there. It will be granted 5 dispensary licenses. Class 2 licenses will be granted 3 dispensary licenses. The commission's also going to issue an additional 10 safe access retail licenses, with each license allowed to have 2 locations. So this gives us a grand total of 28 total dispensary licenses that will be available. We're also authorizing the State Board of Pharmacy to establish rules and regs for retail sale of the medicine through licensed pharmacies if they should choose to do so. The pharmacy is not required to obtain a safe access retail license. Beginning in 2022, the Commission will do a retrospective study of the participation of our minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. It's going to be performed every 4 years, and they're going to be looking for the inclusion goals that we set forth in the legislative findings that you'll find on lines 53 through 61. No licensee shall operate within 3,000-foot radius of a school, a daycare, or a place of worship. And that's, again, doesn't matter if you got a grow and production license, a Class 1 or Class 2 license, or if you have a dispensary license, you're not allowed within 3 feet of those such locations. All licensees must provide on-demand access facilities for inspection when requested by GBI, the Commission, or the local law enforcement agency. The Commission and the Georgia Drugs and Narcotics Agency may conduct an annual inspection, and no licensee is eligible for any tax credit. If you look at lines 975 through 981, that's where we've outlawed vaping of this low THC oil. And, you know, there's been many concerns about what this could lead to and about this potentially leading to the recreational use of marijuana. But there's two important things to know about that. And there's two things that states that have gone to recreational they have in common. Number one, they started with allowing the smoking of marijuana for medicinal purposes. And number two, the list of diagnoses got way out of control. So not only does this bill not allow smoking for medicinal purposes, we've also outlawed the vaping. But also what it does to make sure we have a tight grip of that list of diagnoses. If you'll remember last year when we passed HB 65 that set up the study commission, we added an amendment here in the Senate that said the Medical Composite Board would then make recommendations to the legislature on an annual basis on any additions for diagnoses to be added to that list. What we've done in this substitute is we've actually said that now the Medical Composite Board, in coordination with DPH, will make those recommendations. And again, we just wanted to add a kind of a third and final check on that and just make sure that list does not grow out of control, leading us down the road of recreation. Currently in the state, it's easier to go buy a bag of weed off the street than it is for these patients to get this 5% or lower THC oil. We know that marijuana has many negative effects, and this bill takes every precaution to prevent our state from going down the road to recreation. But these 9,000 registered Georgia patients need our help, and they need it now. So let's lend them a hand. Let's show the nation the best, most secure solution of access for our Georgia citizens in need. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield for questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 52nd for a question.
Thank you, Senator. Will you yield?
I yield.
A couple of questions. One you may consider unfriendly and the other friendly, but
you're always friendly.
The federal definition of low THC is 0.3%, the same as the level that was in the hemp bill that we passed out this week. Would you agree?
I'll agree.
And the Georgia level at 5% is about 17 times the level of the federal definition. So there is a vast difference between the Georgia definition and the federal. But the other issue is the senator may or may not know that I was one of about 6 that voted against a previous bill because it sent people to Colorado and places where tests had shown that these kitchen labs had products with fungus, pesticides, heavy metals, solvents such as hexane are used to extract it, which is a toxic solvent in gasoline. So would the senator agree that if it is available, that being produced in Georgia would give us much more quality control over what our Georgia citizens receive?
I would highly agree with that statement.
All right. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. That was very friendly.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I sure will.
I think I may have found it, but my question was going to, I think I may have found the answer by looking through it, but my question was going to be, where in the bill are the precautions that you just referenced in what you said, where I'm looking at lines, I guess about 685 and a little bit further over. Are those the line? Is that where the precautions are that we have put in the bill to make sure that it doesn't get out of balance?
Are you referring to DPH, where we added DPH? And the medical composite board recommendations was put as part of HB 65 from last year. We added DPH this year, and I'll see if I can find you a quick. Didn't write it down. Don't know that line off the top of my head, Senator, so you'll have to bear with me.
Will the senator yield?
I yield.
In lieu of us taking a lot of time, since we're trying to move along with the calendar, if we can get together after you yield the well, I'll be happy with that.
That sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
I look forward to our time together.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the chairman yield?
Chairman yields.
I just wanted to make sure that you shared with everyone that we do have a fiscal note on this bill.
We do have a fiscal note.
Thank you, sir.
Well played. Do you have no more questions?
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues and friends, I stand before you today after making a difficult decision. After being elected to this body, one of the main questions I had throughout the campaign was what my position was on medical marijuana. The legislation I'm looking at today, with the narrow focus of helping children in Georgia, when I sit back down, my intention is to press a green button and vote for it because it's for the children. What I find embarrassing and sad is how we got to this point. We got to this point because the federal government failed to do their job, because attorney generals in the past two administrations were not strong enough to do their job, which their job would have been to get with the Drug Enforcement Agency, have this drug reclassified as a Schedule II so it could have been researched, so it could have been reported on, so we would have known how good or how bad this substance is for these children. And speaking of the children, when this was first introduced several years ago, everybody was on board because it was for the children. And there are many jokes that go around every time somebody comes up with a piece of legislation and they mention it's for the children. But what happened is exactly what I knew would happen. As the children started lining up for this necessary drug, they started getting pushed aside, shoved, and trampled by adults who wanted to take it from what it is today to what they want it to be, which is recreational marijuana or smokable marijuana. I've spent way too much time in the cities of Denver and Seattle and looked at the absolute chaos that is caused in those cities by recreational marijuana and smokable marijuana. So I appreciate the work that the committee chairman did with adding the vaping exclusion in there, but we have a long way to go. Because while we talk about these children that the medical oils are going to help, let's don't forget the children that are damaged and destroyed every day by recreational marijuana here in the state of Georgia. The thousands and thousands of children who suffer every day. Some of these children I witnessed sleeping on coffee tables in roach-infested houses with no electricity because their mother and father or caregiver cared more about buying marijuana and other vices instead of taking care of our most precious resource, the children that are growing up in this state. The senator from the 28th has done an incredible job at taking on this task and at coming together with something which is almost like building a horse to pull a carriage that was built several years ago with no mode of pulling it down the road. The General Assembly should have done A before they did B, but they did not. So we're here today to try to put an A in front of that B, and we struggle with it. But be prepared. Be prepared, because when this passes and when it goes to conference and when it comes out in some format, be prepared for those vultures who are standing on the borders of our state ready to bring recreational marijuana into Georgia. Because I can promise you, law enforcement throughout this state, the sheriffs, the police chiefs, and our state law enforcement agencies, they have an ops plan because they know that that's what's coming next. And I can promise you, I'll be back in this well, if not next session, the one following, Lord willing, and we'll be talking about how we're fighting recreational marijuana that these unscrupulous business owners and others will try to do. But today, our job is to protect these children that suffer. So today, we will vote and we will pass this. But please, don't pat yourself on the back too hard, because there's another battle coming right after. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
For what purpose, the senator from the 27th rise?
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to be excused from voting on HB 324 pursuant to Senate Rule 5-1.8D.
Without objection, the senator from the 27th is excused from the vote. Any other senators wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 53rd rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Just want to state that isn't it true that the sheriffs in my area came down here and the senator from the 28th put all their concerns in the bill and made the Sheriff Association neutral in this?
I'm certain the gentleman knows of what he speaks. For what purpose does the senator from the 22nd rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the permanent prohibition on drug-related felons, if that language is still in the bill, these green votes may change?
That's up to each and every senator to make that decision on their own. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 44, the nays are 8. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. I'd like to take a moment to recognize former state senator from Alabama, Quentin Ross, who is a good friend of the senator from the 43rd, who's with us here this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Secretary, will you read the caption of House Bill 276, please?
House Bill 276 by Representatives Harold 106th and others. The bill will be titled Enactment Article 1 of Chapter 8 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to state sales and use tax so as to modify the definition of dealer to require the collection and remittance of sales tax by certain persons that facilitate certain retail sales to define marketplace facilitators and marketplace sellers for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 276. The bill will be titled Enactment Chapter 8 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to sales and use taxes revised the definition of dealer to require the collection and remittance of sales tax by certain persons that facilitate certain retail sales to define marketplace facilitators and marketplace sellers and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 52nd to speak to House Bill 276.
Thank you, Mr. President. For a little bit of background, I think those that were here last year remember the online sales tax bill that we did in anticipation of a Supreme Court decision which came out in our favor. It was Wayfair versus North Dakota on whether you could require out-of-state businesses that had an economic nexus, a presence in Georgia or other states, to pay the same sales tax that our businesses in Georgia, our brick and mortar stores, pay. This bill then brought about the current bill here, which is setting up a marketplace facilitator so that the marketplace facilitator, which could be Google, it could be Amazon, it could be even HomeDepot.com, that they are the ones responsible for collecting the tax. This has been done in other states, and it's part of the legislation to put us in compliance with this, so that rather than us, Department of Revenue, trying to chase down a lot of different businesses or individuals, that the facilitator of this will be responsible, and they've agreed to it. And we have the support from Amazon, from Google, from HomeDepot.com, from Airbnb, from Expedia, the Georgia retailers that agree to this structure, which is also done in other states. These are taxes that are currently owed under law and have been owed under law even before the Supreme Court decision, but have not been collected due to the difficulty in collecting these taxes from very small individuals. You do see a fiscal note on this that when we bring in the revenue, there's both a state impact and a local revenue impact. There has been one amendment that was put on in rules that took our taxis, limos, Lyft, Uber, those, exempting them from this. Now, this particular legislation does not set any tax rates for anybody. The intent of this legislation is to say that those that do owe taxes, that we will have this structure for it. But nevertheless, that amendment was put on in rules to this bill, and this, again, is supported by all those in the marketplace. It's being done in many other states and will give us a great framework to efficiently collect the taxes that are owed. With that explanation, I'll yield for any questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I'll yield.
Just can you clarify that amendment to make sure, because there was talk about it being the highest tax in the nation for Uber and Lyft rideshare. That amendment clarified that?
The reason they would say that is because Atlanta has a tax rate of 8.9%. Now, New York City is 8.87, so basically they're the same. So it's not the highest tax rate in the state of Georgia.
But did that
But in the city of Atlanta, it was, and the amendment that was put on here in the Senate version does exempt them.
Okay. Thank you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I urge your favorable consideration.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none, and the question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 3, and this bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 242?
House Bill 242 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th and others, a bill with title enactment Title 43 of the OCGA, relating proffesions and businesses to provide for the regulation of massage therapy educational programs and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities offers the following substitute to House Bill 244. Bill will be titled enactment Title 43 of the OCGA, relating professions and businesses so as to provide for the regulation of massage therapy educational programs, to provide for legislative intent, provide for definition, to clarify requirements for massage therapy license, to provide for violations, provide for conditions relating to regulation by counties, municipalities, or other local jurisdictions relating to massage therapy and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
The chair recognizes my favorite rules chairman to speak to House Bill 242.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I have the pleasure of introducing or representing a wonderful bill, the Massage Therapy Practice Act. And I'd like to thank the senator from Ocilla in helping me prepare this. Most of you don't know that the chairman of, what are you chairman of? Well, the man from Ocilla. His first profession, he was a Kobe cow massager. You know, they massage the cattle to make the Kobe beef. It's more tender that way. But he didn't do well, so he went back to peanut farming. So thank you for your help with this bill. But the short version of this bill is all about education. To be a massage therapist, you have to be educated in their practice and be certified to be a massage therapist. If you can still massage, which I know the senator from 13th is interested in, but you can't be a massage therapist without the educational and other requirements that's in this provision. Now, Mr. President, I'll be happy to answer any questions, but that really sums up the bill. And no matter what kind of ending you want with this massage bill, the ending I want is for you to pass it forward.
Do you yield for questions?
Of course.
The chair recognizes your roommate, the chairman from the 50th.
Mr. Chairman, do you yield?
No. Yeah, yes, sir.
You caught my attention when you mentioned the Kobe beef. Could you tell me what breed of cattle are most of those? Does most of that Kobe beef come from?
No, sir. In fact, I would appreciate your expertise in this issue.
Okay, it's young beef.
It's a what?
Young beef. That helps make it more tender.
Oh,
also.
thank you for that.
Do you continue to yield?
Of course.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield?
No. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Senator, is it not true that a massage is sort of like a grown man or woman's recess?
The senator so states, yes.
Do you continue to yield for these
yes,
enlightening questions?
Yes, sir, we have to have this before lunch.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 55th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, is this sometimes known as the feel-good bill?
As the senator so states, yes.
Does the senator continue to yield?
Yes, sir. I want this abuse. Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Will the senator yield? And I'm asking,
Yes.
will the senator yield?
Okay. Mr. President, I'm delighted to present this bill, and I'd ask for each and every one of you to pass this forward. Have a nice day.
The Rules Chairman has yielded the well. Does any other senators wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose the senator from the ninth rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that tomorrow is the minority leader's birthday?
I'm certain the gentleman knows of what he speaks. For what purpose does the minority leader rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that it's the esteemed senator from the ninth's birthday tomorrow?
The chair would ask if y'all are going to dinner together. For what purpose does the senator from the 53rd rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true we could set up a dual massage for both of these on our birthday?
The chair is speechless. For what purpose does the senator from the 55th rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it not true that the senator from the 10th and the lieutenant governor's birthday is April 1st?
I'm certain the gentlewoman knows of what she speaks. April Fool's Day. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. The Rules Chairman can certainly bring good bills. Mr. Secretary, can you read the caption of House Bill 218?
House Bill number 218 by Representative Williams of the 145th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 7 of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Hope scholarships and grants so as to provide for eligibility requirements to receive the Hope Scholarship as a Zell Miller Scholarship scholar relative to students who graduate from an ineligible high school or home study program to extend the period during which a student may receive a Hope Scholarship. The Committee of the Senate on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass, brought by Senator Tippins. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th to speak to House Bill 218.
Thank you, Mr. President. Friends, this bill is simply a bill to extend Hope Scholarship eligibility for a period of 7 years after graduation from high school to a period of 10 years after graduation from high school. This bill helps Georgia meet its workforce needs and growing demands of associate degrees and bachelor's degrees, improves Georgia's education attainment rates compared to competing states, and grows the talent base necessary for a global and competitive industry. If there's no question, Mr. President, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions.
I encourage your favor for support of House Bill 218.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. All right, quick update. We are going to take a lunch break for 1 hour. At 1:15, the rules chairman is going to hold a rules meeting in room 450 at 1:15, so that's in an hour. We will come back here at 1:45, back from recess. At 1:45, that's the plan. 1:15 rules meeting, 1:45 we'll come back from recess. The Senate stands in recess.